Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Why I'm not getting sound.
Community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Simeon Moro EU and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which I will now place in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. Tonight, our featured guests are Jean Kellogg, Executive Director of the Merola Opera Program, who joins us from San Francisco, California, Josh Lovell, an alumni of that program and singer at the Vienna State Opera, and Professor Niels Muus, Director of the Opera Masters Program of the Music and Arts University of the City of Vienna. Oh.
I can't get sound.
Also joining us tonight is Professor Lina Rivera of St. Mary's College of California.
I got it.
Jean, welcome so much to the show. Jean, I think you have to unmute. There we go. Hi, Jean.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to see you all. And I love Vienna. Was there, and Niels Muus showed me a wonderful trip around the city when my husband and I were there a few years ago.
Fantastic. So Jean, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into music and eventually go into arts promotion?
Well, I was actually born into it. Both of my parents are professional musicians. And so I grew up in a small university town in Florida, and where my dad was a professor. And so I was exposed to it from a very early age. I think I saw my first opera when I was 5, and that was The Medium, featuring my mother's best friend, who scared the crap out of me as she was singing, singing Baba. But I still loved it. And I studied piano. I have a bachelor's in piano performance from Florida State University. And then I got my master's in opera coaching and accompanying from Westminster Choir College, which is in Princeton, New Jersey. And the reason I went there was to study with the brilliant Martin Katz. Once I met him, that was it. I had to study with him. And the great thing is we've come full circle because Martin comes to Merola every year to work with our Merolini. So it's been a wonderful reunion every year that I'm here. So once I finished with my degree, I realized, wow, it's kind of tough to make ends meet and pay the rent. So I sort of fell into arts administration. At the time, arts administration was not something that the programs in universities was not really fleshed out yet. So I was uneasy about spending a lot of money going to school if I wasn't sure about it. I can tell you now that they are fantastic. And so I went from there to working with Westminster Choir College on their administrative team, and then worked with Chautauqua Opera as assistant to the artistic director, then got snapped up by Miami Opera to work down there as artistic administrator. I've been all over the map, actually. Then I went to Washington, D.C., where I worked with a community music school, where I thought I was going to be for a few months, and I ended up staying there 8 years and being their dean. And from there, I went to Lyric Opera Chicago to be the director of education. Spent a wonderful 9 years there. Fantastic place. Yes, Josh went to, was in the Ryan Opera Center. And then from there, I went back to the DC area to run a performing arts center. And I stalked Lauren Mazel for several years out at his Castleton Festival and finally got him to bring his program to the Hilton Performing Arts Center. That was my big coup, was to have him bring his orchestra and some of his operas to the Hilton Performing Arts Center in Alton, Manassas, Virginia. Very ex-urban place outside of DC. And then from there, I came to Maryland. I've been here almost 10 years.
So why didn't you decide to pursue a career as a music performer?
Well, I was doing both for quite a long time, coaching and accompanying. I love collaboration. I actually ended up singing for a while. A voice teacher at the Levine School of Music wanted to coach with me. She said she couldn't afford lessons, so couldn't afford to pay me, so she was going to give me voice lessons in exchange. I went, oh, many have tried and all have failed. And within 6 months, I won a dance competition and I started singing just, locally and doing some things professionally. But when it got down to it, arts administration was where I ended up going. I think having that in my background makes me a much better administrator, knowing from the inside what the artists are doing, how they manage their lives, what they have to go through in order to do what they do, makes a huge difference when you're leading a company that supports young artists.
And tell us just quickly, what is arts administration? Does that mean just a fundraising, or what does it mean exactly? What do you administer?
Fundraising, it's the business aspect of arts. It's the marketing, the public relations, the finance, and the development, all wrapped into one. It's a major thing to run an opera company and understand all those aspects of it. So you have to be both a business, basically have an MBA. It's partially an MBA, and also focused on the arts and nonprofits. And
did you study business too?
No, I didn't. I learned it on the fly. Wherever I was, that's how I learned the business.
So you're pretty much a universal, how do they call it, a polymath. So you do know music, business, all these things, and you just learned by doing. The different paths opened up and you just took the opportunity.
I was trained in music, but not in business administration. I was trained by working with, I couldn't have been in a better place than Lyric Opera Chicago to learn how the business of opera runs. It was such an incredible organization. So I learned a tremendous amount there from so many smart people. And that really helped launch my career.
Fantastic. So Professor Lino Rivera of St. Mary's College of California has a question. Lino?
Okay, actually, it's more of a comment than a question, Jean. One of my professors, my mentor at the University of Maryland when I was in graduate school, says that the universities are giving a disservice to our students because just like what you said, we are not offering any courses with regards to how we manage our lives as artists. And it seems like you are very lucky to be able to perform and at the same time learn all of the intricacies of administration and managing an artist's life. That is very difficult without going through school and business administration. And I think, personally, I think we should be offering our students with a course or something like a training or an apprenticeship in order to manage our lives, because we are just after we graduate, we're just swim on your own and see what happens with your life. It's a very difficult life. And you are very lucky, Jean, to have had that particular experiences.
Well, I totally agree with you. And that's one thing that Merola does, and we're doing even more of it now. We have a new artistic team who just came in to run the artistic and production end of things. And all of it has to do with how to manage your life, PR, health issues, how the taxes, how to be, yeah, exactly. When you're an independent contractor, it's so complicated and so different. And just so many other aspects of what it is, how to be your own manager. A lot of artists from the previous years would get an artist manager who would get them gigs and all that. Now you really you may have a manager, but you've got to do a lot of the work on your own, and how to build a website, how to present yourself on social media, all of that is being trained at Merola. And it does need to trickle back down to the universities. They need to make a whole person of the artist. Absolutely, totally agree with you.
Okay, so moving on, let's take a look right now at the program in question, the Merola Opera Program. Here's a short performance. Fantastic. So tell us a little bit, Gina, what is the Merola Opera Program exactly?
Well, the Merola Opera Program is an intensive training program for young artists about to embark upon an operatic career. Most all of them have bachelor's degree at this the point that they enter, and some of them have masters, or they're in the process of getting their master's degrees. And what we do is it's sort of like a finishing school in a way, by giving them lots of training, introducing them to all sorts of different techniques and coaches. We have the best of the best coming. We always have Martin Katz or Warren Jones, Alan Darling. We've had Stephen Blyer. We also have our teachers have been Jane Eaglin, Carol Vaness, James Morris. We are bringing in some new people this summer that's going to be very exciting, which I can't tell you about yet because we haven't made our announcement. So they get all sorts of different viewpoints, and part of that is to figure out what is they can take the best from each of them and incorporate that into their lives. And I bet Josh could speak better to that than I could, since he went through the program. Niels is wagging his finger here.
Professor Muus, you have a comment? You have to unmute yourself.
He's muted.
You're still muted, Niels.
I think you need to unmute.
Yeah, they're gonna figure it out.
I think we got it.
Okay.
Do we have?
I think so. Can you hear us?
Okay. Okay. No. Also, one of the reasons why I really wanted also, and we talked about, and we wanted Jean to be on this program is that here in the Middle Europe, the Merola program, as fantastic as it is, as a big program, is not so known. And I think it is a shame. And I'm sure a lot of people here in Europe, if they hear about it, they don't know if it is an international program or not. And I would like Jean to explain that.
Certainly, it is absolutely an international program. We are an international organization. We have singers and pianists and stage directors coming from all over the world. We train pianists as well. So we generally have 23 pianists, 23 singers, 5 pianists, and a stage director. And they come from, we have a lot from China, Korea. We've had them from New Zealand, Australia, Italy, Germany this summer, and pretty much everywhere you can name. Italy, we've also had from Poland as well. And so we really are reaching out to international training for these young artists. And another big aspect of our program is what you just saw, performing lead roles in operas that are staged for them with professionals leading them, both stage director and master conductors, master directors, with a professional orchestra. That's all a part of the training because it is so vitally important that they have that experience. And you might have I don't know if you recognize the mezzo-soprano that was singing, that was Samantha Hankey. She has quite a nice career going over in Europe right now. The last time we did Cenerentola before that was in 2007, and that was with Daniela Mack, who now has a major career. And 10 years before that, the lead singer in Cenerentola was Joyce Di Donato. So we really have a great history of doing Cenerentola here. Actually, Josh was supposed to be in it, but he got stolen away by Lyric Opera Chicago.
I just also want to ask, where do people find the information? How does people apply for the Merola program?
Well, most of them know about Yak Tracker. That is where all the young artists go to sign up to audition and to apply for all the companies in the United States and in North America. So I think it's yaptracker.com. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah.
And also certainly on our website, merola.org. You can go there. We will not be posting auditions probably until sometime in August. We're still trying to figure out what we can do this fall, but we will be doing auditions. And so yes, every year we audition. We have about 800 applicants. We have been in the past auditioning 600 some odd singers and pianists. And from there we choose 29. So it's a very exclusive program. And we get the best of the best. We are looking for not just well-honed artists, but also those that show great potential and could really benefit from being here and working with a lot of the great teachers that we have and getting them on the right career path.
And where are you holding these auditions?
We have in the past held the auditions in New York City, in Chicago, and in San Francisco, and we're looking to expand this year. We'll probably be doing a lot of the auditions, the preliminary auditions by videotape. A lot of the organizations are doing that now, and then doing our callbacks, our finals in the big cities. And we're thinking about adding a city in the South. We're not going to Europe yet, but a lot of our Europeans and our international students come to the New York to do the auditions.
So we'd like to see you in Europe.
Well, we'd love to, but it's I don't think that's going to happen this fall.
Okay. Oh no.
So Jean, tell us just quickly before we move on to Josh, tell us about what your day's like and what it is exactly that you do at the Merola program.
Well, I do a lot of multitasking, let me tell you that, because we have a very small staff. There's only 8 of us. I'm about to add a 9th, Director of Advancement, which was a high-level development person. And so I oversee marketing, development, budgets, the finance, and I am the liaison between Merola Opera Program and the San Francisco Opera. San Francisco Opera provides us with the artistic leadership and the productions for the program. A lot of people think that we are under the aegis of San Francisco Opera. We are not. It's the other way around. Merola has a contract with San Francisco Opera up to like $1.8 million a year that we pay the money to them to provide us with the artistic aspects of the program, as well as provide all the production aspects as well that we are able to do in concerts. So I am the liaison with the people in the Opera Center. Our new artistic team is made up of Carrie Ann Matheson, who just came to us from Zurich, and also Marcus Beam, who was once a artist manager and is also a life coach. So a lot of those, that's a really nice combination put together to really help our young artists make the next steps in their lives as opera artists. So I do a lot with, right now I'm dealing a lot with Marcus and Carrie Ann. They're brand new. They come in, they think they're going to do a normal program. Now they must have reinvented this program that we're thinking about doing this summer 3 or 4 times. It's just the worst possible situation. They're very creative. They are working so hard, and I can't wait for them to have their own season where it's normal and they can do productions and really do what they do best. So we'll make it happen.
So Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what you do, and how you ended up at Merola.
Well, in that order, okay, it's a good order. I come from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. So actually not that far from San Francisco. So it's nice to be in the same time zone there and have a good connection even there. I am an opera singer, as you might hear or know of, and I'm here in Vienna. I'm part of the ensemble at the Vienna Staatsoper. This is my 2nd year, and I took part in Merola in 2016.
So tell us, and why? And you took part in Merola? Just you heard about it, and then you applied, and then what attracted you to it?
When I had just started my master's degree in the United States. And so now there was all these other programs that were really available to me that I could then really consider. Because I studied in my undergraduate degree at a very, very small university in my hometown. And so now there was many more programs to consider. There was more opportunities to be able to fly to, because flying out of Victoria is really, really hard. It's challenging. It's a very small airport. And so then now I could look at all these programs. But Merola really stuck out to me because first and foremost, as Jean said, it's a training program. And that's what I wanted to work on. When I wanted to train, I wanted to get better. I wanted to learn, hone my technique and my artistic merit as an opera singer. And so then I saw it. I looked at the faculty. I looked at the duration of the program. I looked at what it offered. And it just, to me, I just said, this is a gold mine. This is the best program. I really hope I can get in. And I still remember I had to wait until the very last week of auditions. And so I had to go to New York. It was my first time in New York, and I was totally just flabbergasted and taken by the city. But I remember I went to the audition. I had an amazing time. And then I'll never forget when I got the call back, because the way that the Merola auditions work is you go there, you sing with a larger group of people, and then they let you know who has a callback, and then you go the next day. And then you do the next part of your audition. You sing more pieces, and they get to know a little bit more about you. There's a little bit of a conversation. And I remember every step. The best summer of my life is actually that summer of 2016 at Merola. It was an amazing summer. And so everything that I saw is as Jean described, and that's why I wanted to go to Merola. And I'm really grateful I was able to go.
And so tell us, I'm interested to know when you got there, how did you change? What changed when you got there to the time that when you left?
I'd say like just about, it might sound cliche, but honestly, like every single aspect of my character, not my character, my being as an opera singer, my personality, everything really changed because everything was challenged. We really had the discussions of how do you conduct yourself really in person. And they might seem basic. It might seem like, well, you should just be a nice person, but not everyone really, sometimes people need to have that spelled out for them. The same way that you'd say, well, you just need to do your taxes. Well, some people go, how do you do your taxes? Everything was spelled out in a really constructive and critical way. So how do you conduct yourself in the rehearsal room? How do you conduct yourself when it's the Sitzprobe? How do you conduct yourself when it's the dress rehearsal? How should you conduct yourself at auditions, lessons, networking, whether you're meeting with sponsors or donors? How do you do your taxes? How do you conduct yourself as the personal side of yourself, and the artistic side and the business side of yourself as the artist? And that's just one aspect. Then there's all of the vocal training that you do. And the one thing that I loved about it is that there's a huge part of the summer that is just meant for your development. You bring your own rep, you choose, and it's very personal. I got to work with a huge array of amazing coaches. Alan Darling is still a favorite of mine, and we still work together. And we just worked through all of my repertoire. And then I was able to work with Cesar Uola, Jane Eagland, Martin Katz a lot. And it was just such a great thing. And so I walked out of the program feeling much more confident on stage, being able to access a higher register than when I walked in. I was able to access new colors and new artistic abilities that I didn't know I really could do or had access to. Because first and foremost, Merola is a training program. And it's good that you actually brought it up, because not many Europeans know about it. When people do ask, they either look at my bio or they ask where I got some training, and I owe a lot of my training to Merola. And I say, well, I did training at the Merola Opera program, and people go, wait a minute, is that the young artist studio at the San Francisco Opera? I'm like, no, it's this separate program that is meant to training artists.
Okay, fantastic.
Sorry, I went on a ramble.
Not at all. Very fantastic. So can I ask, can we hear a little bit of this singing now? I hear that you have a Mozart piece.
Yes, yeah. We prepared Dies Bildnis ist bezaubernd schön from Die Zauberflöte. Let's see, can you still see me from here? Is this good?
Yep.
Perfect. Dies Bildnis ist bezaubernd schön, wie noch kein Auge je gesehen. Ich fühle es, wie dies Götterbild mein Herz mit neuer Regung füllt. Mein Herz mit neuer Regung füllt. Dies etwas kann ich zwar nicht nennen, doch fühl ich's hier wie Feuer brennen. Soll die Empfindung Liebe sein, soll die Empfindung Liebe sein. Ja, die Liebe ist allein. Die Liebe werde sie dann mein, und ewig werde sie dann mein, ewig werde sie dann mein, ewig werde sie dann mein.
Bravi. Bravo.
What a pleasure. That was fun.
Why I do what I do.
Thank you.
To discover these young artists. Now, what you didn't hear in there was what a brilliant Rossini tenor this guy is. I mean, he is one of the absolute best out there, and you're so lucky to have him in Vienna.
Thank you. That's nice of you to say. Thank you. But that's like,
So tell us, Josh, about
no. Please.
tell us a little bit about your development. I got some comments while you were singing that you just have a fantastic technique. People are writing me in different languages saying that your technique is great, that you're singing so well. Tell us, how did you get there? How do you feel yourself about your technique and about your development?
It's been a real journey, because I was someone when I really started out, like in my undergrad degree, I was always described as a very natural singer, in the sense that the voices kind of did things that other people maybe would find quite hard. I always had access to a really high register, and I could move my voice and have some agility, but I didn't really know the technical ways of how I was doing things. I was just blah. And so the challenge for me through the years was really taking the time to then understand and learn my voice and just play and figure out, well, what is my voice with me, and how do I really take advantage of all that it has to offer? And so it's been a long journey, but now, like, I think the way my trajectory went was I was in Victoria for my undergraduate degree. I went to Michigan and worked there. Then right in the start of my degree, I was able to go to Merola, and that opened so many avenues. And then when I was finishing my degree, I was accepted to go to the Young Artist Program at Lyric Opera of Chicago, where I had further development. And then after 2 years there, started working here in Vienna. And so through that whole period, there's been just this up and down maze of just figuring out different aspects. But now I feel like I've really come to a point in my career where I can really start expanding on what I can do. For example, with this piece, this is a piece that I remember the first time I brought it to my very first teacher, a teacher who had a real affinity with Mozart and Bach and Handel and Schubert. And I brought it in because I thought, well, I listened to this album was with Fritz Wunderlich, so I could just do this. And he said, no, you have to put this away. You're totally not ready. And so I put this aria away for years. And even when I was at Merola, played with it, but didn't really start accessing it. But now, after this whole development, now I really feel that I can start playing with that and playing with other roles that are more rich. And that's all thanks to the wonderful trajectory, so much of which I owe to Merola.
So you say that you are kind of experimenting. Do you feel like you've come to kind of your best now, or do you feel like you're still getting there, or does it come in?
Still getting there, for sure. The journey never stops. But I think a wonderful lesson that I received from my first teacher was just to play, because unfortunately, unlike a violinist or a flautist or any other instrument, we can't actually see what's really going on. We can see some things. We can see the jaw, we can see the tongue, we can see the face, we can see the rib cage and breath, but we can't actually look inside and go, okay, if you can just stretch and do this with your vocal folds, then you'll figure that out. So there is a lot of exploration and figuring out, play, experiment, and learn, because everyone's technique is so individual. And so thankfully, though, along the way, there have been wonderful teachers and mentors and coaches who give me very specific direction. No, this is how you must feel things. But even so in doing it with that information, how do I make it personal to myself? Do I feel like I'm at my best? No, certainly not. The journey never ends. There's always things to learn. There's always ways to grow. Do I feel like I have more access to what I can do? And can I do it better than I did before? Surely. And that's always the goal.
Fantastic. So just tell us, before we move on to our roundtable, a little bit about your work now at the Vienna State Opera. What's it like, and how has that surprised you, and what do you look forward to in the future?
Well, being a member of the ensemble, the biggest responsibility is that there is just so much repertoire. And so part of the reason why I really wanted to come and work here was nowadays it's really hard to break into the operatic industry, especially working at high quality houses. And so I wanted to come here and take advantage of being in this stellar house, being able to work with so many amazing conductors and artists, the orchestra, my colleagues, the chorus. Everyone here is really, truly excellent. And so I want to take advantage of that and learn as much as my craft and learn a lot of my repertoire within my time here. And so the biggest responsibility that I have is just making sure that I maintain my vocal health, making sure that I maintain good technique, and making sure I know all of my music. Like I believe last year, if I can count, last year's a better example to go by because there wasn't as much COVID time. And so there were many more performances, but I believe it was it, did I have 17 or 18 roles that I had to have fully memorized and prepared and ready to go, whether that was performing or covering, and some things that were like, oh, we need you to step in and learn this right away because this person can't do it. And so that would be the greatest challenge of having a fest contract at a house like this, or any house in Germany or Austria.
Tell us a little bit, what does it mean when you're part of the ensemble? What are the different ways that you can be part of an opera house?
Well, being part of because it's kind of a tricky term, because if you were in the United States and you said I'm a part of the ensemble, a lot of people would connotate that to a young artist ensemble. But here in Europe, especially in Austria and in Germany particularly, you say you're part of an ensemble. You are part of a core group of singers that makes up the majority of singers that are playing characters on the stage. And so that's just a part of the different system here.
Here you also have to understand that the system is also where Vienna State Opera is a very, very great example. It's a repertoire house.
That's the thing I couldn't remember to say.
And most houses also in America, we would call what we call stagione houses. That means they play one piece 7 times, then they do another piece, and then they do another piece. Of course, then you cannot get through so much repertoire in 1 year. The Vienna Opera House, normally they play around 280 to 300 performances a year. And they normally played, it's a little less now, but they had some years up to 58 different operas.
Yeah, I think last year was.
And a lot of it is played with a very minimal rehearsal time. But of course, it is a system that we love here in Europe, that there's always light in the theater. There's always something new going on, and there's always something to talk about. And that is the tradition that we cherish here.
Oh, yeah. I'd say what was really interesting for my development was I was in the Young Artist program, the Ryan Opera Center at Lyric Opera of Chicago. And yeah, similar to what you were saying, they would prepare one show. And once that show was moving into the theater, they would start preparing the next show. And once that first opera was really finishing up its run, and then the second opera was moving into the theater, they'd start doing a third show. So at any time, they would have a maximum of 3, maybe 4, but usually 3 operas at once. But here at a repertory house, whether it's here or Deutsche Oper Berlin or the Bayerische Staatsoper or Stuttgart, Frankfurt, wherever, in Germany and Austria, they're doing a different, usually a lot of times as many as sometimes 6 operas, 5 operas in a single week. And so there's so many shows that are going on at any time.
Okay, so just one follow-up question then. So you said you're part of the ensemble, so you and your colleagues are singing most of the roles in the operas each night. What are you are, so I imagine that's one stage of your career, and then you move on to another stage perhaps where you're singing in a different opera house every week, or, what does that mean exactly?
No, that's a great point to bring up, because really, and everyone's career is very individualistic. Some people would leave education and maybe they'd pursue more, or maybe they would just go straight into having a guesting career, as one could call it, where they're working contract to contract with a symphony here, an orchestra there. Some people prefer, because one of the benefits about having a kind of career where you're part of an ensemble like I am is that you have job security, you have social benefits, you have a structure where you are staying in a city as opposed to having to travel here and here and here and here, so you can actually have a life and a family. While as someone who's working contract to contract, it's really challenging because they could be 2 months in Madrid, and then they could be 3 months in Berlin, and then another 2 months in New York. And so then it's quite hard that way. My personal trajectory is I want to be here. I am learning my craft. And then I'd like to fade out and slowly then have a full-on guesting career, because I really love traveling and I want to go see the world and go work all over the world. But right now, I'm just enjoying learning as much as I can in this amazing house.
Fantastic. Okay, so that is a great way for us to begin the roundtable. The question is, what makes an opera star an opera star? Jean, can we begin with you?
Well, of course, it takes talent. That's number one. It also takes drive. It takes passion. You can't just sit back and hope that it happens. You've got to get out there and make it work for yourself. That's one of the things that we do at Merola, is really help them understand that this is just the beginning. You can't rely on other people to make your career. Josh has been going out there, making it happen for himself, and really going all the right steps to make sure that he is securing a very good career for himself in the future. You really have to have that drive in order to do this. If you don't, and you've got other things that you feel you're sort of wavering, then don't go into it. So Josh?
What does it look like? What does an opera star mean? What's the definition? What does that career look like? What does a person?
Well, let's talk about a few of them that were here at Merola. Well, Renee Fleming was not at Merola, but they said, "Oh, great opera star." It took her 10 years to even get anywhere. She worked her butt off to get where she was and then finally be recognized. Joyce DiDonato, I have to tell you, when she was here, I will not mention who the master teacher was, but it's a major name. She sang in the master class and the teacher told her, "You really should find something else to do. You're never going to have a career." So I think that was incentive for Joyce to say, "I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out there and make it." And so she certainly showed that person. Susan Graham is another. She was here in Merola. She did not win the big prize. She did not become an Adler Fellow, but she worked towards it. She matured and grew and found her niche and became a great star. And that's what you have to do.
So in other words, an opera star, in your opinion, it's somebody who does that guessing like Josh was referring to.
Yeah, well, it happens in so many different ways, but you don't just get discovered and all of a sudden become a big star. You hook up with the right people, with the right coaches, with the right teachers, and then you sometimes you have to have a PR person. And Pavarotti had this Herbert Breslin, who was a major PR guy. And that doesn't happen anymore. So you can't rely on that. So you have to do all your own PR now if you really want to have a career in it. I
Understood.
Believe. Yeah.
Niels?
I would like, more than talking about an opera star, I would like more to talk about a professional opera singer, because we have had some opera stars. It is disappearing very quickly now. Mm-hmm. It is disappearing for many reasons. I don't say, I don't give any value to it, but it is disappearing for several reasons. First of all, we don't have a strong recording industry any longer. That you have to have great stars. Second of all, we are now have turned into a system where we want people as young as possible. Mm-hmm. And most of them do not reach maturity like Joyce DiDonato. She had the chance to develop slow, which is wonderful. And which actually I find the professional way of educating really good opera singers. It is like a good red wine. It needs time to mature.
Totally.
Nowadays, it is use and throw away mentality. And I hope, and I also do that, of course, with our young singers here in Vienna, and teach them that they have to be modest, they have to be serious, they have to be disciplined, and they shouldn't, there's always a way to get through. Maybe you don't become the new Pavarotti, but you can have a very nice career also with doing honest and very good professional work. And I think we are heading that way more and more.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up. I think a lot of times, and that is a fair question, like what makes an opera star? But I think it's funny how that thinking goes, because I remember just being like going through my conservatory years, and the example that was always used for a budding singer, it was always the Michael Fabiano, the Renee Fleming, the Lawrence Brownlee, the Luciano Pavarotti, the Juan Diego Flores, the Anna Netrebko. Those were the people, and yet those are just a very small myriad, or the Maria Callas, and yet they might have been opera stars, but there's actually all these other people who are amazing opera singers, and for whatever reason, maybe they didn't have the voice, or they didn't have the publicist, or whatever, but they had fundamentally amazing voices, but they didn't have that stardom that was there. And so I think that that's a really good point, because yeah, what makes that? Dedication and hard work, obviously talent, but extremely hard work and waiting. Because you look at these big people, like you look at Luciano Pavarotti, and he was taking the time before he really was stepping in and singing the juiciest of his roles, and he was taking small steps, as opposed to what happens now with someone, you see it in the headlines, making their debut at the Metropolitan Opera, 26 years old. And it goes, do they need to? Maybe they can, but then that becomes a sort of standard as to, well, when are you making your debut? And it should be when I'm ready to.
Good. So, and Josh, just to follow up on that, so what do you, when I tell you that opera star, what goes through your mind and the generation of your colleagues? What do you think about this? And is that what's desirable, or is that not desirable, like Niels said?
For me, it's my goal is I want to sing on all the largest stages, and I want to be the next, I want to be the first Josh Lovell, but my goal is I would love to be as renowned as Luciano Pavarotti. That's probably not going to happen, because that man is a god amongst mortals, but that's my goal and that's my dream, and I do whatever I can to get there, and always the small steps. It's again part of the reason why I really wanted to come to Vienna, to learn the repertoire and really learn about the art form in this rich nation, in this amazingly artistically rich city. Because what happens more and more, and this is not a recent phenomenon, people have been writing about this for 100 years. Lamperti was writing about this at the end of the 19th century, in the sense that where are the good singers going? They are rushing through their training to sing as big of repertoire as possible, and then their voice breaks down before when it really should be hitting its peak, and then we are not getting the great stars. I remember reading articles when I was sitting in the library, and in my first bachelor's program, and reading these articles saying, where is the next Luciano Pavarotti? Because at this point he was now turning 50, and they were looking, where is the next one? Where is he? And then when he was died, where is the next one? And everyone was trying to look for that next star, as opposed to really looking towards great art.
So tell us, Josh, quickly, what do you respect about Luciano Pavarotti? What makes him an opera star to you?
Well, there's actually so many. I mean, that's the one I go to, because most people, I think, will just recognize that right away, because they have an image of him and everything that made him what he is. It also helps when there's these documentaries that are recently coming about him. But there's so many. Alfredo Kraus, it's Wunderlich. But I think, to me, what an opera star would be is someone who, they have that fame and notoriety around them, but they adhere to the craft and the art first, and they do what they can to serve the music, and then those other things happen. I think an opera star, sure, if I can say it quickly, because I say a lot, but I think an opera star will come from adhering to the music and the quality. If they go for quality, then the quantity, as in the stardom, will come. If a singer adheres to that, then they'll become famous and they'll become that star.
So like you said, becoming the first Josh Lovell,
That's the goal. I just
or the first Luciano Pavarotti. Okay.
yeah.
We have a message from Lino Rivera, Professor Lino Rivera. I agree and deeply respect that, Josh. Fantastic. So moving on to our final roundtable of the evening. What has the situation during the pandemic been like, and what do the next years look like? Jean?
Well, the pandemic last year made us cancel our program. We did a virtual program, virtual training. They had coachings online. They got to meet with some of the great artists in seminars, and they got language courses and acting training, all online. Not ideal, but that was something, and it gave them something to look forward to and to work towards. And I think that was the hardest part of the pandemic for our young artists, is not having something to work towards. They learned the repertoire they were supposed to sing, and then nothing happens. And I think it's been a devastating emotional time period for all these artists. This year we're in person. We're not going to be able to do in-house productions. We're hoping to do some outdoor performances. We're still, if you don't know, San Francisco is the has the most strictest protocol in the entire country of the United States. We are just the last ones to come out. We're still, as far as singing is concerned, there's still a lot of restrictions. Even if you've been vaccinated, you still have to wear your mask while you're singing. So it's been complicated, and we're trying to figure all that out for the summer. And we're just hoping and praying we can go back to somewhat of semblance of normalcy in 2022. And I certainly hope that we'll have some sort of fall season at San Francisco Opera. And as Josh said, it's, and Niels mentioned the repertory. San Francisco Opera is somewhat repertory in the fall with doing 4 or 5 operas, but they are expanding the time period and just doing them all stagioni, so that we can separate out the rehearsal times, have space in between rehearsals to air out the rooms, and do productions that we can have orchestras on the stage. It makes it, in the pit, makes it very, very difficult. You can't do any Wagner or Verdi, big major Verdi stuff with, or Strauss for that matter. If you are packing them all into the pit, you really have to restructure everything that you do to allow for that social distancing.
Okay, Niels?
Oh, yeah, it's of course very difficult for the young people, especially that are really eager to have careers and start careers. I think, yes, everyone will learn a lot from these 2 years. And I see it as my duty running a program in my university to really keep the spirits up and keep the productivity on a very, very high level. And I have a fantastic group of people of very high qualified capabilities around me. And we have been really very, very effective. Our students, we are having a program, as you know, with the Summer Academy of the Vienna Philharmonic. We have recorded for television now Don Giovanni. We are recording 3 others also, operas now for television. And I also run a program in Beijing where we are doing Zauberflöte now. So we are always trying to force our people to work, to learn, and to go on, no matter how many problems we have around us.
If you need a tenor for the magic flute in Beijing, Niels, I recommend Josh Lovell.
Already now we cannot pay him.
Fantastic. So Josh, tell us.
Well, my pandemic experience was actually, it was really unfortunate at the very beginning, because I was in Moscow singing at the Bolshoi at the time, just finished a short run of Barbieri di Siviglia, came back here to Vienna, and I was preparing a run of La Cenerentola, and then shortly after Guillaume Tell, and then shortly after that Don Pasquale. And then we just closed. And so me and so many, like myself, like so many other artists, there was so much work that was lost. One of the grateful things that I was able to be fortunate of is that being a part of the ensemble and having my contract at the Staatsoper meant that I was still getting paid. I still had salary. I still had benefits, which for so many friends of mine, I had a friend who had bought a house, and thankfully, his husband was still able to work. His husband's a doctor, and so they were able to still do that. But then that was something that was quite nerve-wracking. Well, wait a second. And so I think it's really going to make so many people question this health and safety. I think it's also going to make people really question how do we treat artists? Are they as disposable as we've thought they were in the past? I think it's also going to make people question how vital the arts are. I know, speaking from here in Vienna, one thing that was really fortunate about was that when cases were able to be contained to a very small amount, we had to quarantine through March, April, and then things were starting to open. This was last year. And we were able to start reopening in May. And in last June, the Staatsoper was having almost a performance a day, concert performances of repertoire. And they could have a maximum seating of 100 people in the house, which is far less than what it can normally hold. But what the amazing thing was, all of the tickets sold for the entire month. And I believe it was less than an hour, because the population was just so hungry for something. So maybe this pandemic will also help us really question how vital are the arts. We can look back on history and see, well, the Depression gave us an example, because even though there was the economic depression of the United States, people were putting money towards food and entertainment. And so now we still see that there's this real craving. All these years later, there's this craving for the arts. We see it with Broadway, we see it with the ballet, we see it with orchestra, we see it with pop music, we see it with opera. And so maybe that'll also help people really question how vital are the arts.
Fantastic. So are there any comments or questions from our participants? Please feel free to just turn on your microphone or write a comment in the chat box. Now, let's take a look how to stay in touch with our guests. So we have here the Merola Opera Program, which is merola.org. And I believe we have here, if I can see that, contact over here, contact us. There it is, info@merola.org. Is that how everyone can contact you, Jean?
Yes, and it will be forwarded to me, yes.
Wonderful. And so that's info@merola.org, and the website is merola.org. Josh, we have joshlovelltenor.com, always with a great jacket. Fantastic.
I love this jacket. I love it. It's a wonderful coat.
Fantastic. So, Josh,
I also recommend if anyone wants to reach out or ask questions, they can also just reach me on Instagram. They can use the contact email there, but I'm usually faster on Instagram. And so you can just find me. My handle is just Josh Lovell Tenor. It's really quite simple and boring, but that's me.
Josh Lovell Tenor. Okay, fantastic. And let's take a look at Niels Muus. There it is, nielsmuus.com. There's his website. And just click on contact. And we have also his agency there, melissa@bookman.at, or you can write him through the contact form. Is that right, Niels?
Yes.
Fantastic. Wonderful. So thank you so very much to Jean Kellogg, to Josh Lovell, to Professor Niels Muus. A special thanks to Niels Muus for organizing this and getting this all together. Thank you so very much.
It's been a very big pleasure to see Jean again. I wish all the best for the Merola program for the many coming years, and it has been an honor to have Josh here as guest today.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Well, thank you. It's so great to see you both again, and thank you so much, Simeon, for having us on. And I hope we see each other soon in person.
Yes.
Well, let's take a look at next week. If I can see that, we have, if I can get over there, Aline Sam Jiao, Orchestre National de Lyon. Aline Sam Jiao, General Manager of the Orchestre National de Lyon, and its 2,000-seat performance space, the Auditorium Maurice Ravel, is probably very aware of the term stakeholders. She is responsible for what is at once a public service provided by the City of Lyon, an elite international performing arts organization, and with 150 full-time employees, a middle-sized enterprise. After several years on the job, she's still smiling and brims with enthusiasm for the orchestra's mission to enrich and enlighten Lyon's citizens by offering them a space for free thought where they can reimagine the limits of the possible. Oh yeah, and if you work nearby the auditorium, you might consider using your lunch break to take part of their team building by music making program. Come welcome Aline Sam Jiao to our show. As always, all information about upcoming shows may be found at www.simeonmoro.com. So once again, thank you so very much to Jean Kellogg, to Josh Lovell, and to Professor Niels Muus. Thank you very much to Professor Lino Rivera. Most of all, thanks to you, our participants, who make it all worthwhile. So from Vienna, Austria, and from the Bay Area, California, goodbye.
Thank
And see you
you.
next Wednesday.
Bye.